In the top left, winning that last TVP, he's the red Terran, Drunkenboi. In the bottom right, as the green Terran, he is Sottorks. It was such an odd name. I really would have expected to recognize him through something, but I seriously don't recognize his name. So I am learning here alongside you guys. He is a Canadian Terran, just like Drunkenboi. He's, I guess, current claim to fame, we'll see what happens in the future, is a qualification into WCS Austin 2017. Was that the Austin? No, it wasn't. I think Massa's run in Austin was 2016, I think.
Resubscription received.
Yeah.
Apparently you did something right, Captain.
Thank you, Nomac, for the 53 months. Longest running subscribers. Sottorks is legit now. He has good mechanics. Cool. I'm excited to learn about him. I saw Drunkenboi play rather safe, but rightfully so. Actually, I'll go ahead and remake this tweet here, since we know his actual name. I don't know if he's a Twitter, so I'm just gonna go with it. There we go. Yeah, he played a pretty safe, even as I was saying, like against someone maybe really quite good, maybe overly safe, but against Rob it was totally called for, and he had a very strong mid-game mechanics-wise against Rob. I think he actually had a stronger presentation, really. He looked like a stronger player in general. So he's here in the qualification spot, so it's going to be perhaps a battle of mechanics. We certainly don't have any shenanigans afoot right now. No one starting things off with a proxy. Bit awkward on Thunderbird, actually. Such a big map with the curve here. But both going into very similar openers, and in fact, both of them skipping any second unit here, going right into the reactor, probably feeling very safe to do so, a lot because of the map. We did have a scout that didn't go completely in, but actually, what did it see? Let's see the I saw the SCV maybe. And this SCV from Drunkenboi saw the command center. Okay. And with no second Reaper, we're not going to have any attempt to get the little bit of an edge in the beginning, but we are seeing a swap off of factory to reactor for Drunkenboi. Going to go for those Hellions. He will have a surprising amount, so that if Sottorks were to be a little silly and go out on the map himself, kind of dedicate himself to a push, which, why would you? He would get overwhelmed. But with the current setup he has, I'm not expecting to push. Just one Hellion is kind of like a safe thing to get, and then out in that tech lab. This Reaper will try and get to scout exactly what's going on. Won't see the you know, maybe the best timing to scout would be when the starport is deciding if it's swapping off or not. But it does get the delay on that starport. Nicely done. And it's an SCV, 2 SCVs. There are the 4 Hellions coming across the map. I mentioned that Sottorks, if he were to move out for some random ass reason, would get demolished, but we also need to talk about just defensively. 4 Hellions, 3 excuse me. 3 to be truly deadly. If they get one good lineup here on the Marines, on the SCVs, they can be certainly worth the investment, but with good a concave, even without the high ground to your advantage, even with a larger choke than some other maps, right, in the natural, will still be good enough. And the SCVs wouldn't really be under like that much threat because there's not that many of them. You're not like toasting up 25 SCVs on a single mineral patch. So this will control it, and I do like Drunkenboi's attempt to get the little bits here and there, but as soon as a tank pops out, even a Cyclone, I guess even a Raven actually, auto turret would be effective against this. It will deal with the Hellions, which retreat into a place they can't escape from. Kind of corralled a little around their escape plan, so not the most worthwhile Hellions, but with them being only minerals, it's not too bad. I think that you definitely want them just alive in general, so the Liberator has a bit more chance to do damage. But you know what? Actually gets already more than I thought it did, with how much the Sottorks could be paying attention. But pretty immediate pull. Interference Matrix, just to finally deal with that without any more damage. 2 Ravens is actually a bit of a scout there, right, for Drunkenboi, who already opening up a little bit on the weirder side with the Hellions, not just straight into reactored Marines, tanks, Ravens. Would like to see those 2 Ravens and see also if is going to be a push out. As very common, this is like the most bread and butter thing you can really do as a Terran, is go into the Marines, then into tanks, then into 2 Ravens, then swap the Bear to the starport, get double Vikings, and get Sim at a pretty good time, usually with the 3rd CC at some point, but actually getting really fast double engineering bays. I feel like I don't see this version too often, but double engineering bays, certainly definitely going to see the command center come down at some point, if not straight up on location. Thunderbird does have some whininess to it, some, you know, odd mineral patches to be concerned about, but it is still kind of high ground 3 bases, almost like King's Cove. So it can be kind of seen as a, you know, very much so a macro map. This is a nice little position there, so a great way to try and circumvent this is to get the surprise either shots off on the tanks. Okay, this actually didn't go as well as I think Drunkenboi was hoping. So if you can surprise them by it being like, hey, my tanks are already siege, and they take 2 shots to the face on their Marines, they had no fodder for the tanks anymore. But the other thing you could do is actually bait the interference matrix and be unsieging at the same time and run away. But that's certainly not what happened. So 2 tanks went down, but the Ravens being focus fire by Drunkenboi's Vikings only get 1 more interference matrix. Not enough DPS to actually grab it before it runs out either. But the unsieged tanks of Sottorks be jumping on top of the remaining tanks, grab the last 2, and are going to try to run away. Go, SCV, go. No. Ooh, nice siege up here. There is a little bit of that. It's not really grass, is it? It's something. I don't know what to call this. Lights? Sure, blinding lights. And that was a nice little micro trick. I mean, we're talking about very tiny engagement differences, all things considered. But behind this, you know, what their macros like behind it is much more important. So Drunkenboi already 3rd CC on location, up in the workers, faster combat shield as the Sottorks stim finishes, but he's not quite immediate to the combat shields. Drunkenboi is gaining the advantage, despite the, I think, more awkward than he hoped engagement right here. He is still looking quite good. His barracks are already done as well, and that cannot be, that's actually can be a very important thing. I don't want to say it's the biggest thing, but it can certainly be. We're talking about a lot of rounds of Terran production, because it's not just the barracks not being done, it's the reactors not being done either. So whereas 9 Marines are popping out for Drunkenboi every production round consistently, Sottorks is still working off of 1 Marine at a time. So he is not in the position to be out on the map dropping and getting concaves and pushing and pulling, but don't let me stop you. Okay. I think this is very dangerous to do, especially because Drunkenboi will have combat shields. So even if Sottorks gets a decent position, gets a shot off, Drunkenboi will be allowed to, you know, remedy any poor engagement he finds by just retreating. By the way, another thing that's really important about those earlier skirmishes is that the Raven count stays at some, you know, not some number. For Drunkenboi, he kept the one alive. Sottorks actually sacrificed both of his. So while Raven Interference Matrix certainly looked the best in those earlier engagements, they are obviously still a very important, useful tool to have here. A couple Interference Matrix could have been possible. Seriously, that scan just revealed a significant lack of Marines, and he's just going to go ahead and try and circumvent a slower moving army. Scans again to see the entire tank line move. SCVs are pulled initially as a retreat, but then pulled into the army. But now that the Marines are all dead on Sottorks' side, he is going to just get dropped upon. Actually, I spoke too soon. The Marines just weren't in position, so 1 tank goes down, but they decide to go for a drop in the main base. 17 SCVs have lost their lives in this emergency defense. And the medevacs might even actually get out alive. 18 SCVs, all the Vikings. The Marine count cut down to size once again, and he's finally got his reactors up and producing. But not a good position here for Sottorks. 4th base is done for Drunkenboi. He's going to have 2-2 over just the 1-1 and a superior Marine count. His tank count also has been, I guess, cut down a little bit, but he was faster to the double factory, so that's going to rise again. And Drunkenboi has taken serious command of the CVT. Nice little drop to take out one of the tanks. Looks like it might just be able to. Nope. So close. Nope. Nope. So close. No. It's like more of a morale defeat, isn't it? It's not the thing at the sides, whether or not Drunkenboi contains them here, but... Oh, the scan sees the unsiege, and Drunkenboi's just gonna go for it. Doesn't need medevacs, I guess, is his theory, but he actually might. 3 tanks on the left side, which were in scan range, but maybe not in his actual vision if he was, you know, looking like more like this. He is forced to retreat. Just a little too much firepower there. Drunkenboi, I mean, he could just try and throw bodies at Sottorks, especially with the better upgrades he has going for him, but the best way to really finalize a TVT that you have this type of position in is to go into starports, liberators, you know, that type of stuff. These marines are very low because the medevacs weren't involved for so long, so Sottorks is going to be able to break out despite the inferior upgrades there. Also, a lot of Drunkenboi's army obviously not quite caught up to the main force. So Sottorks is making the comeback moves. I mean, now he's producing consistently. He has the shot to take good engagements, get maxed out, and then it's kind of fair game from there. The biggest difference being his 3-3 timing and any bank that Drunkenboi can accrue. And that kind of is what's happening. Drunkenboi, all right, he will hold this position, but he is kind of rallying in to Terran, which, right, like especially on a very long map, they see an opportunity to pounce on you, they'll get it, and then suddenly you're kind of you lost the momentum. Defense advantage is such a key thing, especially in TVT, but oof. I was gonna go over how Sottorks has his tank count up, but then these Marines on the backside just kill like 6 of them. That was what Sottorks is really depending on to continue holding on to his 3 bases. That's probably game then. All right, yeah. Don't think you recover from that. You're starting, you know, a couple, 1.5 engagements are going okay. And then quickly back to taking terrible trades. Upgrades are going to finish for the next battle here for Drunkenboi. He's going to have 3-3 to 2-2. Whoa. Quick snipe on that medevac, so no clever little position. I really feel like you can see that Sottorks would be fine, like perfectly good at TVT if it wasn't for the opening. His very late production, causing that one battle to go super poorly for him. If he wasn't at such a disadvantage, you can see that his thought process, his expectations of the matchup are good. His instincts about the matchup are good. And his battles can be very good too. But he did have that pretty bad start. And there's probably even a little bit of Drunkenboi being a little overconfident because he knew his opponent had a bad start, so. Sottorks actually getting a bit of a pushback here. But hard to really pump up the game, right? Hard to really get hyped about this because he's been stuck on 3 bases for so long. His 4th base is almost finished. The Drunkenboi's 5th. Maybe. He would need to get that 4th down and situated. No second army somewhere out on the map. No drop, killing all his SCVs. And he still doesn't have the capacity to take a straight up fight. Even if his tanks get the first shot, I think Drunkenboi would still do okay. But he is now bullying Drunkenboi back to where he feels confident to start dropping to Drunkenboi's side, trying to get those clever positions that Drunkenboi was trying to abuse. 2 tanks siege up means that Drunkenboi's little hit squad there to clean this up isn't big enough. Okay, maybe I did call it too soon, but oh, well, gosh. I literally just went over, like the drops catch the 4th base. if he doesn't let that happen, then yeah, but it just happened, so no. Enough reinforcements looks like that this won't cascade into something really severe, but on the other side of the map, his ground army, rather the lower army has been cleaned up, the topside army has been cleaned up, retreating armies not really looking too impressive, and Sottorks is thrown back down to 50, 60 supply lower. Scan reveals no other 4th base. I guess Drunkenboi realized he hadn't been scouting that. No attempt at a double expand or a lifted, main base, which is now what's happening. Scan from Sottorks trying to see where the army is, and he will see not the army, sees the scouting marines. The 2 center towers, he does have a decent idea, right, of he's about to be attacked. But he does want to see exactly where the army is because he's got to make some really risky plans here. So finally he scans it with 2 more scans, tries to go for a doom drop. But unfortunately, those marines are being spread out there. Drunkenboi doing a very good job of spreading against those back attacks, those mass doom drops. Just immediately scouts that attempt and shuts it right down. Scan sees a 5th base planetary. That can't be a good thing to see. So Sottorks is going to try and send something over there to maybe defend, or, sorry, attack it. Nope, decides not to. He sees the army, the main army coming through here, and needs every little bit on those front lines. It looks like his 3-3 could affect this battle, and at least even upgrades, but down 40 army supply. And actually, it's not going to be so much an engagement as it is a doom drop. 4 tanks left here, but not scouted, so they will survive. Or they can just siege up. Okay, yeah, do that too. Do that too. Sottorks is going to be forced to go into a base race. That's your only option. You're in the middle of the map. Go for it. A couple tanks are here already. A lot of marines as well. This is not such a bad defense, start of a defense, that is, but it's not quite enough. Meanwhile, Drunkenboi jumping on top of Sottorks is a much better defense. And that will be it for game number 1. With Sottorks lasting 17 minutes. When the game, a lot of the game was decided in the first stim combat shields attack. I don't remember what timing that was, but a while ago. 8-9 minutes, whatever it was. So, as I said, you can see a lot of the proper instincts there. He denied a lot of the gotcha moves that would have won the game for Drunkenboi X amount of time earlier. And if he could do that, but not be so behind on production, then there's a seriously good back and forth here. The other qualifying match, I guess, has now been determined. Crucial Nug. Who is that? Who is that? Versus Semper. But Semper's asking for an extended break since his wrists are hurting. D-Boy is good. Drunkenboi's always been pretty good. I kind of compared him to Masa earlier in the casts, where you don't really know if he's practicing a whole ton. You don't really know, even if when he is practicing, if he's really like full-time into it. But when he does come up to these tournaments, these qualifiers, he does really well. And you can even, like, you know, even when you're like, has he been playing? Does he know the meta? Yeah, he knows the meta. And you're like, okay, gotcha. But not quite making it deep into any tournament runs like Masa just seems to naturally do. There's something about, obviously, his skill level and his talent, but also just about the region when it comes to tournaments for him. Even beating out, you know, Scarlet all the time. Sometimes being a good opponent to Neeb when, you know, a lot of the time we do talk about him playing League of Legends. Most of the time, or not really knowing the meta, but he just adapts so quickly. Drunkenboi's like that, but maybe to a lesser degree. That's always the feeling I got from him, though. But I don't actually know. Like, if he's practicing 50 games a day, and someone in chat's gonna yell at me, like, okay. I'm not gonna disbelieve you, but he is, I think, only really appearing for these WCS qualifiers. I could easily check that. There are a lot of NA tournaments that just don't get a lot of viewership and a lot of prestige. But they do happen a heck of a ton. And I know that even the NA Apprentice being a really cool tournament that's kind of highlighting some of these players. Drunkenboi's been around for a very long time. Sottorks, I don't know when he started. As I was mentioning in the first game, one of the first good results from him was the 2017 WCS Austin qualifier. Another standard opener for both players going to the command center. No factory expands from either player. Maybe also both in a reactor again. Or Kairos Junction, which is not that big of a map, though, so they could be kind of a... Well, no, both of them are, yeah, not going into the second Reaper. Which means no real shuffle, no real edge to be gained here, but also means that there's nothing that has to be gained. When you go for those factory expands, you're a little bit behind economically, and if you're entirely shut down, then sucks to be you. But if you get the snowball effect, their second Reaper pops up, and then your Hellion shows up, and all that good stuff, then you feel like a boss, and you get ahead. But pretty safe. Because they both SCV scouted, right? Yeah. And pretty damn economical. Drunkenboi once again opening up with the Hellions. And maybe this time he'll be a little more cautious about keeping them alive, just so that they can support the Liberator a little bit more as a distraction. They also will not be trapped as easily. Thunderbird did have the trap set up, but there's multiple angles to escape on Kairos. Reaper goes in for the scout. The exact same timing, I believe, as last game. Sees the 1-1-1, but not too much else. Sottorks still keeping his Reaper at home, going for the safety Hellion. Oh, but what is this? Oh, hello. Thank you, Bad Intent, for the 7-month resub. But this is very interesting. You don't see this too often. This is actually looking a lot like the TVZ build without a Viking. Okay, alrighty. Oh, this is gonna be so awkward. Oh no, this Hellion is supposed to stop that. Oh, so close to stopping the scout. But what is going through Sottorks' head here? He sees a Marauder, he sees a researching tech lab. And also, like I saw the factory still producing Hellions. What was the plan? What was the plan? I've not seen it against Terran yet, but I like imagining the circumstances here. And I guess if there's a Cyclone, you grab the Cyclone with a Marauder slow, you take that out. Suddenly they're only depending on Marines. Is it a main attack? Is it a harassment attack? I don't know. I feel like Drunkenboi has now been forced to change his ideas, though, regardless. And it's just going for a Hellion drop into the main, which Sottorks seem to be prepared for, but then gets himself a little bit out of position, forced to pull the SCVs, an emergency supply depot being dropped to try and stop the Hellions from coming in here. They will grab a couple of last SCVs with their shots, so 6 in total. Not quite directly worth 4 Hellions, right? 4 Hellions, 400. 6 is 300. Math is hard. But that is one of those things where, like, is it worth it to sacrifice army for economy? And I would say yeah. I'd say yeah. 30C's on the way for Drunkenboi, which he was able to get down location faster last game, but this game especially faster. 2 Hellions still alive, I guess, for Drunkenboi. He's able to get some scouting done and threaten that natural base. Sottorks not having that quick 3rd CC, a lot because it's not what his build was going up to. He wanted to do, these are my words, he wanted to do a similar attack to last game. In fact, exact same attack as I was talking about. It's a really good build, both to learn off of, any like budding Terrans out there, but also just to do in pro games. There's really nothing inherently wrong with it. It's good defensively, it's good offensively, and you still get some pretty well-timed stim and 3rd CCs, especially if you're bold enough to put the 3rd CC on location.
Hostile forces detected. Arming raid defenses.
Oh, thank you, Pig. That's actually kind of surprising. Is Pig feeling a little off for the cast from the cast yesterday? Either way, thank you. Appreciate the raid. Pig's having very long Tuesdays for him, right? Wait, is today Wednesday for him? Yes. But still, long Tuesdays and early Wednesday. It start being tough. Anyways, we are watching the first qualifying match of this qualifier for NA, the last qualifier for NA to get in the Challenger, which starts this weekend. And Drunkenboi is currently up 1-0, looking quite dominant in the last CVT that we saw from him. Now, Sottorks, I just gone over, Sottorks won't do this push. He is doing a bit later of a push, but it is still happening. Drunkenboi kind of started the defense against this by being aggressive, which he is again planning on doing. if he can hold and not just be bopped, he will have that much better economy. He will have the better upgrades as was last game, but I felt like he actually got a better defense than I expected for what Ravens can do in this situation. So we'll see how this works out this time. Going to be a little more of a patient build up here as opposed to a big just rush in, get damage done. Sottorks already finding a tank a little too far forward. He does have the air control, bullying Drunkenboi back. Drunkenboi is going to try and get air control. Oh, Marine's actually going forward here. I thought a mistake, but then Drunkenboi actually takes the engagement. That was very awkward. Very, very awkward. It wasn't a lot of Marines that it was enough to support these tanks. Instead, they sacrifice themselves. Now the tanks get sacrificed. And, well, this is looking a lot more like what I thought was going to happen last game. It is a very difficult push to hold without your own 2 Ravens. And he was holding before his combat shields, before his stim. And now he doesn't have the Marine count, the Army count to actually utilize his mobility, his ability to concave. He's just lost so much there. But he is keeping his head above water. He still has an even Army supply, which is a drastically different type of Army supply. Tanks versus Marines. And that gets taken out. Marines get taken out as the shots from the tanks still hit them. 1-1 is about to finish up for Drunkenboi, who was still holding on, but the 3rd CC had to be lifted. So that is a successful push for Sottorks, who is now fully mining. But once again, late to these barracks. I mean, I don't have much else to say about his build order up until this point, but I can tell you that you don't want to, like, the less structures you slap down at the same time, I think the better your macro will be, right? Like, if you really could, going 150 barracks, 150 barracks, 150 barracks would actually be the best, but they're all 4 down at the same time. I mean, this is where Drunkenboi got his advantage last game. Or a lot of his advantage and a little bit extra on those upgrades. Very good break. Very good break. It wasn't just the Marines on the left side, but the Vikings and the tank from the right side that Sottorks just wasn't expecting. That was a huge break there. And Sottorks, he's, again, with a later production, a later barracks production, he is so dependent on his tank count. I don't really blame him from sticking it out as long as he did. He thought he had the chokehold on the ramp. But even without the back attack, the production of Drunkenboi was really coming through there. And I think he would have been able to break out regardless, but especially with the pincer attack. And now he's going to have that production still running for him as he initiates some type of counter. It looks to be just a tiny little bit of his army. But Sottorks is just finalizing his reactors, now starting his Marines. That is the scary part about it, because, you know, 2 tanks, that's a little scary. They're not super well protected. A lot of Vikings did live throughout that engagement. They just skedaddled off the left side, so that'll be helpful. Certainly will keep that air control, but Sottorks is just, it's such a similar thing happening. Just a little bit later. The initial attack with Raven tanks was much better, but overstaying his welcome and lapsing on the macro behind it just a little bit too much, whereas Drunkenboi really was quite on point with all of his production. Really utilizing that faster 3rd CC and the better upgrades. 3rd CC for Sottorks is going to go ahead and try and move over to the right side, but he was caught without a high production of Marines. He was also caught kind of that time where maybe you would start adding sensor towers and missile turrets. Now you have to just immediately put back into your production, into your army, as you desperately try to hold on. Drunkenboi is splitting his army, so there's maybe a chance that Sottorks, who is finally, like, he was at 700 minerals where he's actually, like, really skyrocketing in that supply. There's a chance that he just overwhelms one section, but that's where tanks try and complicate things. Even if you do have a superior count, you go through a choke, it can be bad news. We read into this so well. God, this game is actually so similar to last game. Thank you, Puck, for that host. But yeah, this is so similar to last game. Yo, that is the one and only Mark. Hello. The 3-month resub. Thank you very much. Hope life is treating you well. The drop that was just instantly denied is still doing some damage. Before I had a bit of a coughing fit, I was saying that it's so much like the last game. You know, Sottorks again is the instincts about his TVT is fine. It's just having the actual units to utilize his instincts. And here we have a lot of important production being taken out, or units rather, and he is getting on top of production or very close to it. Third CC is about to be under fire. One single tank defending. The medevacs, did they die to the Vikings? It looked like it. And Sottorks is just going to have to tap out. Drunkenboi showing dominance in TVT. Sottorks will be able to try and make it through the lower bracket, but that is quite the grind, guys. Like.